The last thing the crew of Gallows Reach transmitted was static, interrupted mid-sequence during a routine mineral drift scan past Sedna's orbit. Then, silence. For 29 minutes, no telemetry, no status beacons, no life signs. And then, something far stranger. A signal emerged, not a distress call or known alien language, but a pattern. Deep space arrays caught it in multiple bands, gamma, ultraviolet, neutrino bursts, all aligning into a geometric progression that shouldn't have existed across those wavelengths. Across every dimension they could map, it coalesced into one repeated form, a curve that devoured itself endlessly, fractal within fractal, looping forever. On board the Androsine, Captain Rowe stood before the curved projection wall, her hands tucked into the pockets of her pressure suit trousers. The display pulsed, silent but invasive. It felt like a presence, though she knew better than to trust gut instinct in space. "Clock the recurrence?" she asked. "Every 11 minutes 46 seconds, said Evran, the ship's signal analyst. He leaned toward the console, eyes squinting beneath copper-rimmed lenses. "It's building. The recursion tightens every loop." "Like it's drawing us in," said Rowe, "or winding something up." "No known AI on Earth or Mars could write this," Callan added. The xenosophist spoke slowly, running a stylus through mid-air, carving translational overlays as he talked. "It doesn't ask, it doesn't suggest. This is a directive." Rowe stepped closer to the signal, now rendering in 3 dimensions, spinning, compressing, expanding. "From where?" Evran touched a panel, and the holomap reoriented. Deep beyond the Kuiper Belt, a rogue planet traced a lopsided arc through interstellar space. Its surface red as inert, no star, no sun, just cold drift. "Telmara," he said, "wasn't even catalogued until 6 months ago. It's not from our system. We think it's passing through." "Then why speak now?" Callan didn't look up. "Maybe it doesn't see us until we notice it." A silence fell in the bridge, not dread, not anticipation. Just the kind that follows when words fail. After all, this wasn't humanity's first alien encounter. But it might be the first that hadn't cared to make itself understandable. "Orders?" Evran asked. "Log everything. Send to assembly priority channel. Full encryption," Rowe replied. "Wake the deep crew. Mission protocols changed." She turned and walked toward the corridor that led to the ship's briefing bay. As she passed the hydroponic tanks, condensation slid across the glass in slow arcs, and behind it, the ferns, artificially evolved for zero-G, twisted slightly off rhythm. Even the plants could tell something was wrong. By the time the Androsine redirected its course, Earth's Long-Range Council had issued conditional clearance. This was to be treated as a potential pre-civilization anomaly with artificial markers. Diplomats crafted press statements. Technologists prayed it was salvageable data from a bygone race. The military quietly routed black-budget vessels to adjacent sectors. No one said what they all thought. The signal was not meant to be answered. It was meant to be obeyed. 3 weeks outbound from the Kuiper Fringe, the Androsine coasted into the gravity well of Telmara, if gravity was the right word. The rogue world did not orbit any sun. It wandered through the dark between systems, dragging a web of magnetic interference behind it. It had no moons, no rings, no natural satellites, only the structure. "Lock visuals," Rowe ordered. The forward view darkened. The stars behind Telmara vanished, eclipsed by a floating shape orbiting the planet, neither ship nor station. The structure moved in slow, non-Euclidean turns, its silhouette forming new geometries every time the sensors tried to stabilize it. It was larger than any human construct, larger than most planetary moons. The crew didn't speak at first. Even Evran's mouth stayed shut, his fingers hovering over the control panel. "It's rotating," Calhoun finally said, "but not around any axis that makes sense." He ran a series of filters, searching for thermal outputs, electromagnetic pulses, even gravitational signatures. The result came back null across every spectrum, except one. Tau mass resonance, he muttered. "It's producing a field that cancels its own mass signature. We shouldn't even be able to see it." "And yet we're headed straight for it," Rowe said. The Androcyna's engines dropped to idle as the vessel entered a stable position between Telmara and the structure. A faint ripple trembled across the ship's hull. No impact, no pressure, just a change. Outside, Telmara loomed. From orbit, the planet appeared jet dark, mottled with jagged surface veins that pulsed in subsonic rhythm. There was no light, no ocean, no trace of atmosphere. It didn't reflect starlight. It swallowed it. Rowe watched the live feed from the external drones. "We're not detecting radiation. No wind, no movement. But those patterns across the crust, they're not random." "Mathematical," Callan confirmed. "They rewrite themselves every 91 seconds. It's a kind of skin, possibly reactive." "Send in the crawler." The ship's probe module launched a needle-thin drone toward the planet's surface. It moved faster than expected, drawn by a gravitational tug that hadn't been measurable until the moment it entered Telmara's near field. The crew watched as the drone descended and stopped. Not crashed, not slowed, stopped. Frozen mid-air, 50 meters above the crust, motionless. Then it dissolved, frame by frame, pixel by pixel, vanishing without debris. Callan whispered, "It unmade it." Rowe didn't flinch. "Then we land on the structure." The ship pivoted toward the orbiting mass. There were no visible ports or platforms. But as the Androcyne neared, the form shifted. What had once appeared solid opened, not mechanically, not like a gate, but like an idea making room for another thought. Passage was granted. No one claimed it was safe, but none of them turned away. Touchdown was quiet. Artificial gravity held. The airlock sealed without issue. But nothing outside the hull made sense. Rowe, Callan, Evran, and 2 auxiliary techs stepped through the primary hatch into the unknown. The chamber beyond did not reflect light. It returned it rearranged. The walls curved without edges, and every footstep made no sound, yet echoed inside the skull. Callan spoke, his voice steady. "This isn't architecture. It's interface." Symbols lined the space, some etched into nothing, some hovering mid-air. Not text, not diagrams. Concepts, condensed. Then, the walls responded. A cascade of glyphs rushed past them like falling water. Not random, directed, meant to be seen. Evran gasped, "I think it's mapping us." The walls dimmed. Then a voice, not through sound but directly into thought, filled them. "You have answered. We did not call." The crew froze. Rowe swallowed once, then spoke aloud, out of instinct or defiance. "Then what is this?" A pause. "This is witnessing." The chamber folded around them, not with motion but with intent. What had resembled a corridor reconfigured into a space without reference. No ceiling, no floor, no horizon. Rowe reached out, and her hand passed through a plane of colorless light. It rippled, not physically but conceptually, like the idea of water, refracted through memory. Evran clutched his sensor array. "Still getting readings, kind of." "Kind of?" Rowe asked. "They register, then unregister, like the data doesn't want to stay real." Before Rowe could respond, the silence around them tightened, compressed into focus. Then they appeared. Not shapes, not figures, more like gravitational impressions. They drifted forward, towering and weightless, made of folds in the room's logic. 5 of them, each distinct. One shimmered with timelines caught mid-collapse. Another pulsed in intervals that skipped seconds at random. One was ringed by mirrored bands reflecting no source. 2 did not move, but their presence altered breathing, thought, even time. Callan dropped to one knee without knowing why. "They're not communicating, they're being, and we're inside their thought space." The voice returned, no longer just inside their heads, but around them, through them, as if the walls had become lungs. You arrive in error. Still, you stand. Ro kept her eyes on the nearest entity, whose outline dissolved and reformed as if memory could not contain it. Are you the ones who sent the signal? A different voice answered. Not a reply, but a second will entering the space. We exude law. We do not summon. The one surrounded by fractured time drifted closer. Evren staggered, as if hit by vertigo in reverse. Callan whispered, They're orders of being. Not life, not machines. They're more like Pantheon, Ro finished. Callan nodded slowly, each one representing a governing concept. That one? He pointed to the figure distorting its own chronology. Entropy, I think, the ending of systems, and the mirrored one, recursion, the endless loop, rebirth maybe, or trap. A third voice entered. Cold, singular. You are categorized, not yet judged. Ro took a step forward, gaze steady. Then judge us. The voices did not laugh. They did not threaten. Instead, they synchronized. Know this. To enter the domain of thought is to stand trial. A wave passed through the crew. Not heat, not pressure. Something in the bones, in the language of breath. We ask one question, and your world trembles on its answer. Evren looked at Ro, his lips pale. Do we answer as individuals? No, she said. We answer as what we are. A pulse flickered between the 5 entities. Time buckled. Callan gasped. His wristwatch spun backwards, then cracked open. The question, is your species capable of relation without need? The chamber dimmed. Evron broke the silence. What does that even mean? Kowloon's voice came hoarse. They're asking if we can form connection without conquest, without trade, without gain. They're asking if we can see another without wanting something, Ro muttered. A pause stretched across the space. No one answered, and the entities waited. Not patiently, not impatiently, only absolutely. Then they spoke again. You are known. You have been entered into the witness cycle. The trial begins. The room dissolved. There was no transition, no doorway, no shift in gravity or sound. One moment, Ro stood inside the impossible geometry of the chamber. The next, she was on a stretch of shoreline where the water had no color and the sky held no sun. She wasn't alone. Footprints pressed beside hers, some human, some with more joints than bones should have. Figures flickered at the edges of her vision, too swift or too vast to fully comprehend. But none of them drew closer. Then the voice returned. Not the chorus from before. This one was different, singular, calm. This is where we watch you know yourselves. Before Ro could speak, her reflection formed in the water. It rose, but not as a mirror. This other version of her stepped forward, identical at first, then subtly different. Eyes older, stance more rigid, a version shaped by decisions she hadn't made yet. The second Ro asked, Why do you lead? What have you given, truly? The real Ro opened her mouth, but no sound emerged. Only thoughts, pulled forward like iron filings to a magnet. She remembered a stranded colony near Europa. She'd made the call to evacuate only the youngest. The rest, too injured to survive acceleration, had remained behind. No punishment followed, but she hadn't visited Earth since. The reflection watched, then crumbled into mist. Elsewhere, Kowloon stood in a cathedral made of ideas, walls constructed from ancient stories, from the symbols humanity left behind in caves, in circuits, in neural lace. Around him, entities from other species flickered in and out, some bird-like, others geometric, one formed entirely of orbiting cells. A voice addressed him, not his, not theirs. What do you love without requirement? He wanted to say language, discovery. But those weren't answers, they were escapes. Instead, he remembered the elder from Tharsis Deep who'd taught him silence for 7 months, without a single word exchanged. Just tea, stones, and time. He whispered, "I loved them because they didn't ask anything from me." The walls shifted. The cathedral bent inward and then vanished. Evren's trial was harder. He found himself suspended between 3 versions of Earth. One bloomed with cities connected by organic networks. No borders, no walls, only shared energy. Another was burnt, ravaged by machine learning gone feral, where humans wore metal masks and spoke in fragments. The third was quiet, empty, dusted, over. Choose. But not for yourself. Choose for your entire kind. Evren shook. Why me? Because you measure without knowing the cost. Tears came. He chose the first Earth, the one that shared. The others blinked out. Then they were back. Together again in the original chamber, or something resembling it. The structure had changed, softened, or maybe they had. The 5 entities loomed above them. Still distant, still watching. Kinship is not agreement. It is recognition without conquest. One trial remains. A 6th form appeared, this one different from the others. It wore a skin of past decisions. Human, not human. Its face changed with every blink. Sometimes old, sometimes as young as memory. One of you must remain. One must carry the echo. The rest may return. None of them spoke, not at first. Then Rose stepped forward. I'll stay. The entity turned. Her offer floated unanswered. Evren followed. Number Y will. Then Callan. No one's qualified. That's the point. The 3 stood, unwilling to name each other replaceable. The voice returned once more. Then the echo will decide. The chamber dimmed once more. Not with shadows, but with a kind of quiet that felt like pause taken on a scale too large to measure. The 6th figure, the one who bore the shifting faces, stepped between Ro, Callan, and Evran. Its form wavered, not from instability, but from multiplicity. It wasn't one echo. It was all the ones humanity had left behind. The voices silenced in colonies that failed. The unnamed researchers lost on first contact. The children buried beneath dry Martian soil. This was not a god. It was memory, made aware. It turned to them. You answer as 3. The echo answers as 1. Each of them felt it. Not words, not sounds, but a thread drawn tight between their minds. It pulled something loose. Not a thought, but a choice. Then the echo spoke through their own voices, each one in turn. Ro's voice. She carries the burden of decisions she never believed were right, but made anyway. Callan's voice. He seeks truth, not to own it, but to be undone by it. Evren's voice. He counts the future by what it costs, and still chooses to build. Then the echo spoke with its own voice. It no longer shifted. Its face was unfamiliar, yet human. Young, unscarred. I will go. I am made of them. Let them return. Rose stepped forward. You can't. The echo smiled. I'm not staying behind. I already was. Before she could argue, the structure itself began to move. Not outward, not in the physical way a vessel opens, but inward. The room compacted, not by shrinking, but by erasing all that was no longer needed. In a blink, they stood once again on the Androcene, back in the bridge, engines silent, Telmara still spinning slowly beneath them. Callan stared at the readings. No time lost. Evren looked up. No data recorded either. Sensors show we never left orbit. Then how? Ro cut him off, pointing at the viewport. Telmara was gone. Not destroyed, not vanished, just absent. And in its place floated a small object, an irregular polyhedron with no seams or markings. It drifted, waiting. Rowe turned to Callan. Get it aboard. The object sits now in a sealed vault beneath the Antarctic Research Corps, humming at frequencies no human can hear. It does nothing. It simply exists. The assembly calls it a remnant. The press calls it a warning. Callan calls it a door. Rowe never returned to command. Evren disappeared from public life, only to reappear on Europa with a farm and no explanation. As for the rest of the world, some believe the alien gods left because we passed. Others whisper we were left untouched because we're already part of something larger. But no one asks the real question: what will the Echo become?